Hey there, this is Travis Mortz with another vintage camera review. Today we're going to be talking about the Graflex Speed Graphic. We're going to go over some of its features, talk about how to shoot it, and see what it's really good at. The Graflex Speed Graphic. This camera would have been made sometime in the late 40s to early 50s, this particular model. And this camera was more designed for the press photographer out there, the guy, your paparazzi back in the day shooting the president or whatever important figure it may be, but something that would have to be shot handheld. They would use the built-in rangefinder to focus, the built-in viewfinder to frame up their shot, or the ever so handy sport finder, and they would use the focal plane shutter to shoot fast shutter speeds up to 1,000th of a second even, and also due to the focal plane shutter, it reduced camera shake immensely. So because of that, you could shoot this camera handheld, whereas shooting the more primitive Crown Graphic handheld would have been a little bit more risque, only because you're just using the lens's shutter, and there's just more room for error with that, and it wasn't quite such a workhorse as the Speed Graphic. The Speed Graphic would have been, your everyday Crown Graphic on steroids, if you will. This thing will do just about anything, including stopping all sorts of action, and yeah, we're gonna go into that. So this camera's pretty awesome. We're gonna take a look at it and see what else it can do.
So here we've got the Speed Graphic. This particular model is a little bit beat up on the outside, but that just means it had a good life. This particular camera came from an architecture photographer in New York. So, back when this camera was being used heavily, it was shooting the New York skyline, and I know that. So that's pretty awesome to know about this camera. All these wear marks are from specific jobs or different things that this photographer would have been doing, and I really love that about these old cameras, that just because they're beat up doesn't mean a whole lot. All these scratches tell a nice little story. So let's take a look at the outside. Here we've got the focal plane shutter controls. What this is going to be is our, let's see if we can focus on that. This is our guide. As you can see, there's a curtain aperture opening. There is a tension number, and then there's a corresponding graph that goes with it. So right now, let's see what we're at. We're at T right now. We're at 0 here. Let's go. Let's see. B. So now we're at B6, which equates to B6, 150th of a second. Perfect. Sunny 16 out. If you want to release your tension, you go like this. And that'll change your shutter speeds. And this is great when you're out shooting and the sun's going down and you know that your shutter speed is, it was right, but now we're getting a little less light. All you got to do is click down your tension and it just slows it down ever so slightly. And so now we're at 3, which equates to 90th of a second. So, I mean, we only shaved off 60th of a second, which is nice. It's, this is what the modern day digital cameras have, is this kind of options, but the Speed Graphic has even more, which I think is fantastic. So here's how we release it. We've got the back here. We're going to flip this open gently. Brand new ground glass. I actually just installed this. The glass was broken when I received it, so I gave it a nice little makeover. Here we've got the top. We've got some custom levels. Let me focus on this. The photographer added these levels on there. Once again, another little bit of character. We've got this Watson viewfinder, which I really believe is aftermarket. I think that was like an enhanced finder back when. This is not the standard finder that would have come on a Speed Graphic, I don't think. Here we have our synchronized rangefinder. In addition, we've got this nice little window on the top here, which is pretty hard to see through, but that's another rangefinder window if you're shooting on the fly. Here we're going to open up the camera. So let's talk about this lens a little bit. The great thing about the Speed Graphic is that it had two different shutters. It had the shutter built into the lens, which is a leaf shutter, typical, like just like any large format lens. Also, a lot of medium format lenses adopted this style. That allows up to 500th of a second. This one I think goes up to 400th. Up to 400th of a second flash sync if appropriate. I don't think this one even has a PC mount on it. This predates PC, so this would have not been used with an electronic flash. As you can see here, this is your plug-in for a bulb flash. But no less, it will sync with a flash at the highest shutter speed, and that's really nice and quite useful. So that's what you would use the front shutter for, is if you were doing stuff like that. If you also wanted to do longer exposures, a second long or whatnot, you would want to see if I can turn this. You would want to use this front shutter if you were going to be doing long exposures, leaving the camera open for an extended period of time, whatnot. And so here we've got 1/5 of a second. Cool. And that's really useful. The front shutter is common of most large format cameras. This is how most 4x5 cameras work, is with a built-in shutter to the lens. This is very common and not too special. But we're going to move on to the focal plane shutter, which is my favorite part about this camera. So I went ahead and removed the ground glass from this camera so we could really see what was going on in here with our shutter. And what this is called a focal plane shutter. This is common to what most 35mm cameras have built into them, as well as they have a mirror. But the focal plane shutter is a small opening that goes across the distance of your film plane. So here we go. This is our biggest opening, our A opening, if you will. I believe this is probably 1.5 inches, if I'm not mistaken. It might be 1 inch, though. This one might not have 1.5 inches. We're going to turn to the next one, and this is a smaller opening. And as we continue, the openings will get smaller, which therefore symbolizes a faster shutter speed capability as well. Because just like with any sort of aperture, which is what this is considered as a shutter aperture, the smaller the opening, the faster it goes. So here's our smallest opening. That would be 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to lock it in there. We're going to crank our tension up to 6. Let's see here if we could do it. Takes a real long twist to get it in there. Perfect. So here we are. We're at D6. So see the D6. And this is 1,000th of a second. This is what's great about the Speed Graphic, is it can go up to 1,000th of a second shutter speed, which no leaf shutter can do, no large format camera can do without this cloth shutter here. So what we're going to do is we're going to release it and see how fast that is. Boom. That was 1,000th of a second. That's pretty miraculous if you ask me. So here we are. Now we're at C6. That's 400th of a second. Still as fast as the front lens shutter. And we're not even on the highest tensions, or not even on the highest aperture. So here we go again. I mean, that time you actually get to see the opening because it's a little bigger, and you really get to appreciate what's happening in there. So, the purpose for this is if you're shooting any sorts of action, if you're shooting any sort of fast-moving people, anything like that, it's going to stop that action. And additionally, it's going to, not have a lot of camera shake because it moves so quickly. And another few things, there's a few other cool things about the focal plane shutter. If you've seen old photographs of maybe race cars or things like that that have ovalized wheels, that is the result of a focal plane shutter camera shooting a fast subject with a slow shutter speed. That kind of stuff really excites me. Anything that's weird and out of the ordinary, and honestly, anything that you can't mimic with a digital camera gets me really excited. So here we are on. What we have to do is, we're going to move into the next portion of this, but as you can see, this says T here, and T means, you want to open up the camera. That's what, hell, I don't know what the T stands for, but that's what opens up the camera's lens and opens up the camera's back is T. So set it on T, release the shutter, And now the back is open, and that's going to allow us to focus through our front lens and see what the image is going to be before composing our shot. This is for the guys that you're going to set up with the ground glass and not shoot through the finder. We have to have it on T to even be able to see what's going on. So we're going to move on to the next step now.
So now I'd like to give you guys a quick little rundown of how to shoot this camera. And I figure since it's a speed graphic, I'm going to bypass the tutorial on using the lenses shutter. For those of you out there who do shoot large format, this is very standard, the procedure, and I really want to focus more on how to use this camera with the focal plane shutter, which if you guys know me, I'm a Graflex guy, and that's what excites me about these cameras is the ones with the focal plane shutter. They're amazing cameras, and I'm going to really touch base on that with the speed graphic, because that's, to be honest, what really everyone's after when they buy a speed graphic. It's not because of the shutter and the lens, it's because it's got a focal plane. And what that means really is that you could put just about any lens on the front of here, because it doesn't need to have a shutter in the lens. You could have just a normal projection lens that has an aperture, much like what a 35mm lens would be. There's not a built-in shutter mechanism, and because of that, you could get faster lenses like the Aero Ektar, which is a 178mm 2.5, and I know a lot of guys are putting Bosch and Loehms on there, and different anastigmats that don't have shutters can be mounted to this camera. So it really makes this camera extremely versatile in that for that purpose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go through a quick little rundown of how to shoot this. So we've got our shutter on the T setting, which is right after bulb, and what that does is it's going to open up the lens so we can see through it. So perfect, the lens is open for those of you guys who can't see it, and we're gonna we wouldn't use the ground glass when using the focal plane shutter. Typically it would be shot handheld, so we're just going to pretend it's shooting handheld. So we take our film back in here, bada bing, slide it in, ready to go. And that's what's great about this camera, is it's a little quicker. So we just put it right in there. We would then take our rangefinder, and this rangefinder is actually coupled up with the lens. So as you turn your focusing knobs, the rangefinder is going to move just like a Leica or what have you. So we'll focus. Like I said, this finder is a little hard to see through, but here we go. Gonna focus. It's getting there. It's getting there. Alrighty. So we're focused now. Now that our focus is set, we would set our aperture maybe to a f11, f16. What that's going to do is it's going to give us nice depth of field, so when shooting like this, we'll have that sort of buffer to help us, get a sharp image. So, shooting wide open, using your rangefinder, a little bit risky. I would probably advise against that. But if you stop down to f11, f8, it's going to give you a little bit of cushion as far as that goes. So we've got our focus set, we've got our aperture set to f8. Let's say it's sunny outside, so we're going to go to, I'm a 100 ISO shooter, so sunny outside, 500th of a second is what I want to shoot at. f8. Gotta go one more. Alright, so we're at D setting with 6 tension. And in order to get 500th of a second, we need to be at 1 tension. So we're going to break it on down to 1. Now we're at 500th of a second, f8. What we'll do is we would pull our slide out, which I'm not going to do at this time. But because of the focal plane shutter, we could leave our lens open because there's actually a curtain now blocking our film plane. So our film is safe to pull the slide out. I'm not going to because I'm not shooting a photo right now. But pull the slide out. Frame up your shot with your viewfinder, and there we go. We've taken our picture, take our holder, flip it, cock our shutter one more time. We're ready to go again. Now we're ready to shoot our next frame, just like that. Where's our little button? And there you go. That's shooting a speed graphic. So it's pretty simple. It does take a little bit of getting used to, and it's it takes a whole lot of faith as far as knowing what you're doing and knowing that your shot's going to come out based on the procedure you've got. So the Speed Graphic is really a one-of-a-kind kind of camera. There's not a whole lot of other 4x5 field cameras out there that do have a built-in curtain shutter. As far as I know, I haven't seen any others other than the Speed Graphic, which makes it very unique in its own right, and very, very desirable to the guys out there trying to do stuff with more weird lenses and things like that. So that's the Speed Graphic. Thanks again for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the Speed Graphic. Stay tuned in the near future. I will also be reviewing a Crown Graphic where I'll go through some of the differences that I didn't cover with this camera. There's a couple other features that I'll touch base on. I mostly wanted to focus on this camera's focal plane shutter and the abilities with that. So check out that video when it comes out, and stay tuned for more cameras. And once again, if you got any more suggestions, I'm open to hear them. I got a couple more things in the pipeline because of you guys, so I appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good one.